we want to look at some very, very important aspects in biology. I am your online tutor, Mr. Oscar Ngatia, and I am privileged to have you today in our today's lesson. I am so happy for whoever actually taking this for her time and going through my videos, especially the ones I've actually already posted, and I'm also thanking those ones who are planning to be part of this program in ensuring that the videos are watched in such a way that in whichever part of this world you may be, we will be in a position to all share this very important knowledge in as far as this subject is concerned. We are going to embark on a very important topic in biology. We have been discussing reproduction in animals. We have already looked at some subtopics in as far as that area is concerned. We have mentioned very, very important areas in as far as reproduction in animals is actually concerned. As a good student, as a good teacher, you are supposed to ensure that you embrace this program with all your heart, knowing that going forward you will have knowledge we shall be able to share, and in this regard we can be able to better our lives, to better the environment in which we are living in, and to ensure that all these benefits everybody found within our existence. We are not doing this for the purposes of getting money, but we are running this program as scientists, I being a doctor, to ensure that everybody at our disposal in our environment, within our surrounding, is familiarized, is exposed to each and every type of knowledge in as far as our bodies are concerned, in as far as plants and animals are concerned, and in as far as each and every creation that God brought into existence, in as far as creation is concerned. We shall not go back to what we had discussed already. I want us to look at some very important areas in today's discussion. The areas we are going to look at are as follows. Number one, we are going to look at reproduction in animals. And under reproduction in animals, we are going to look at one, internal fertilization. Number two, we are going to look at types of mammals or categories of mammals in as far as reproduction is concerned. Number three, we shall be able to discuss how the male reproductive parts are well adapted to ensure that the process of reproduction is facilitated effectively according to God's plan. To kick off our discussion, we are first going to look at the way internal fertilization takes place. And under internal fertilization, my student and my fellow colleague and any other assistant in any part of this world, internal fertilization can be summarized in the following ways. We will detail our discussion in the following aspects under this subtopic. The first part to look at is which organisms will have this type of fertilization. Number two, how does it get to happen? Number three, what are the most important areas that will effectively make this type of fertilization to occur in a very smooth, effective and successful way without any form of hindrance? So to begin, I want to tell you every now and then that biology is the best subject ever. Embrace it with all your hands, take good care of it, look for more knowledge, share knowledge, and be able to understand in a way that going forward you are going to ensure that you have enough knowledge, because little knowledge is very dangerous. And having enough knowledge, in as far as this subject is concerned, will keep you at a point where you can be able to effectively take care of your health, take care of the health of your neighbor, take care of everything that God created, in as far as science is concerned. Internal fertilization is common in most mammals, in most bats, and in most reptiles. All these three different categories of organisms are under kingdom chordata. That means that all these three types of organisms are able to have what you call a vertebral column, or they have what you call a backbone. That's why they all fall under phylum chordata. That tells you that organisms under phylum chordata are vertebrates, and they have a backbone, or they have a vertebral column. Most mammals, most bats, and most reptiles have what we call internal fertilization. What is the meaning of internal fertilization? This means that the male and the female will have what we call sexual intercourse. In a way, the male gametes, referred to as sperms, are deposited into the body of the female organism, such that when the sperms or the male gametes are inside the body of the female organism, they will be able to fertilize the egg while the egg is still inside the body of that female organism. So fertilization has taken place internally, where the egg produced by the female reproductive organ, and for example in animals, especially mammals, referred to as ovary, is actually fertilized internally. The egg is fertilized while inside the body of the female organism. That means this is one of the best types of fertilization, where we have higher chances of fertilization taking place. Why? Because both the male gametes and the female gametes are well protected, because they are inside the body of the female organism. It is not like external fertilization, where the eggs are actually laid and the sperms are spread on the eggs, such that fertilization takes place externally or outside the body of the female organism. The eggs and the sperms are at a higher risk of being attacked, being destroyed, and being eaten by predators within the environment. But once we have this type of fertilization called internal fertilization, the egg and the male gametes are inside the body of the female organism. Hence, they are well protected. That increases the chances of fertilization. You should understand that once the egg from the ovary, in as far as the female reproductive system is concerned, has been fertilized, the egg in most mammals, in some reptiles like chameleons, and in some species organisms, or in some organisms under class species, will be retained in a special structure called uterus, where the fertilized egg will be able to have a particular duration before it can be able to give us an offspring of the same kind, in as far as that organism is concerned. You should note that all fish are under class species. That is PISCES. All organisms under class reptilia are like reptiles, and Those reptiles are like a lizard, a snake, and a crocodile. All mammals are under class Mammalia, and I've said those three categories or those three classes, Mammalia, Reptilia, and class species, are under phylum Chordata, and they are the ones which actually embrace with all their body this type of fertilization called internal fertilization. And we are saying in this type of fertilization there are higher chances of the egg being fertilized because the egg is still within the body of the female organism. Hence it is well protected from any form of disruption or from any form of the egg being converted into food in as far as the predators are concerned. A student and a teacher and any other person in any part of this world should understand that the number of eggs laid in as far as internal fertilization is concerned are fewer than the number of eggs laid in external fertilization. Why? Because in internal fertilization there are higher chances of the egg being fertilized. That's why the female organism does not see any need of having many eggs being laid. That is why it ends up laying very few number of eggs, because we have a higher chance of the eggs being fertilized. Unlike in external fertilization, where the eggs can be attacked, the eggs can be eaten by predators, the eggs can be destroyed, and that means those organisms having external fertilization at their disposal will lay many eggs to ensure that they increase the chances of them being fertilized, at least some of them being fertilized, in as much as some can be destroyed or eaten, but the organism ends up having an assurance that still there are some eggs which can still be able to get fertilized to hatch into young ones at the end of the period that the eggs are supposed to have before they can produce offsprings of the same kind. That is very clear. I now want to notice to you the different types of mammals or the different categories of mammals in as far as sexual reproduction is concerned and in as far as internal fertilization is concerned. Number one, we have what you call monotremes. M-O-N-O-T-R-E-M-E-S. Monotremes are mammals which are egg laying. They lay eggs. After the eggs have been laid, the eggs hatch into young ones. That means that they don't actually end up not giving birth to young ones if they have not laid eggs. Such organisms are said to be oviparous. That means they are able to lay eggs which hatch into young ones. We have several types of egg-laying mammals, always and generally referred to as monotremes. They are like echidna, E-C-H-I-D-N-A. This echidna is also referred to as the spiny anteater. The spiny anteater. S-P-I-N-Y space A-N-T eater, the normal eater, E-A-T-E-R, spiny anteater. The second type of a monotreme, or an organism which is said to be oviparous, or a mammal which is said to be oviparous, is what we refer to as dark-billed platypus. D-U-C-K-B-I-L-L-E-D P-L-A-T-Y PUS. So we have spiny anteater or echidna and dark-billed platypus. Those are the common examples of the egg-laying mammals, especially found in the western countries like Australia, but not in Kenya here. Hello! Those who are in Australia, I hope you know the dark-billed platypus and you know the echidna or the spiny anteater. The second category of mammals, in as far as internal fertilization is concerned and reproduction is concerned, generally, is the marsupials. M-A-R-P-U. I'm sorry for that. M-A-R-S-U-P-I-A-L-S. Marsupials. M-A-R-P-U-M-A-R-S-U-P-I-A-L-S. Marsupials are the second category of mammals. I'm saying this is the second category, the marsupials. The marsupials are actually mammals whose offspring, or you can talk of the fetus, or you can talk of the zygote. After the egg has been fertilized, the organism spends part of its life in the uterus, inside the body of the organism, but ends up spending the remaining part of its life outside the body of that organism in a special structure called pouch. P-O-U-C-H. So during part of the gestation period, will have the organism inside the body of that female organism in a special structure called uterus, such that for the remaining gestation period, the organism ends up spending its life in a special structure outside of that female organism called pouch. And a very good example is kangaroo. In this organism, after the egg has been fertilized to form a zygote, the zygote may spend part of its gestation period in the uterus, inside the body of that kangaroo. Then later on, that young man of a kangaroo will spend the remaining part of its gestation period outside the body of the kangaroo in a special structure called pouch. That is very clear. The second category of mammals, in as far as internal fertilization is concerned, is the one we refer to as the marsupial mammals or the marsupials. These are mammals whose young ones, the young ones of these organisms, which are still developing, will spend part of their stay as they are developing or growing inside the uterus of these mammals. Then will actually spend the rest of their stay as they are growing outside the body of these organisms in a special structure called pouch, which is P-O-U-C-H. And we have given an example of a kangaroo. The last category of mammals that we have in our natural existence are the ones we call placental mammals. Placental mammals, P-L-A-C-E-N-T-A-L. Placental mammals are mammals that have young ones developing in the uterus, inside the female's body, until they reach that point where they give back to. So there is nothing like the organisms, now the young ones of these mammals, spending part of their life in the uterus and spending part of their life outside the uterus as they develop. For the whole gestation period, these young ones of these mammals, called placental mammals, will spend their stay as they are growing. For example, in mammals, in human beings, for the 9 months, will be able to have all their stay inside the uterus in the female's body. So what are we saying? In placental mammals, the third category of mammals, as far as internal fertilization is concerned, will have the young ones spending all their stay, spending all their gestation period, spending all their gestation period inside the uterus of the female mammal until they are given birth to after that gestation period. These mammals have mammary glands. That means they feed their young ones on milk until a particular stage where they are now able to be fed on solid food. But it is advisable, for example, in mammals like human beings, that the young ones be fed on milk from their mothers, the young ones being breastfed exclusively for 6 months before they are weaned and then introduced to semi-solid food and then later on the solid food. Why is it advisable to breastfeed the young ones for 6 months exclusively? That means without them being introduced to anything else apart from milk, it is to ensure that they get all the nutrients which form the balanced diet that mother will give to them through feeding. It tells you that these children will have a strong immune system when they are well breastfed. Having actually mentioned that, placental mammals provide good care to young ones. They breastfeed them. They protect them fully at a particular age where they can now be able to depend on themselves without necessarily depending on the parents 100%. Leaving that behind, I want now to introduce to you how the different parts of a male reproductive system will be able to perform its functions, and how each and every part of that male reproductive system is adapted to perform its functions in a very easy way, in a very effective way, to ensure that internal fertilization is well taken care of. I have a diagram here. The diagram may not be so clear, but when you look at it very keenly, that clearly shows you the male reproductive system. That is the male reproductive system. With that diagram there, we are going to start from here. We are going to start from here. That is what we call the testes. The testes. My diagram is not very clear, but I'm really sorry for that. How I just wish that you can be able to see it very well. That is the testis, and when you look at that testis, you can realize that the testis originate from the abdomen in a tissue referred to as the embryonic tissue. When the testes are originating from the abdomen, they now actually grow as they move downwards until they get subtended until they get suspended outside the body. But before the testes become suspended outside the body, you should note that they should first be able to originate from the abdomen, and from the abdomen the testes originate from a particular tissue called embryonic tissue. So what am I saying? The first reproductive part, in as far as the male reproductive system is concerned, is called the testis. Where does the testis come from? The testis originates from the embryonic tissue in the abdomen. After growing and becoming mature and well developed, they become suspended outside the body of the male organisms. When we look at the structure of the testis, you will realize that the testis has several highly coiled tubes called seminiferous tubules. The seminiferous tubules, as far as the inside of the tubules are concerned, have actively dividing cells. Those cells are the ones that divide actively and rapidly to give rise to millions of cells that later on develop to form the sperm cells. So along the seminiferous tubules, we have actively dividing cells. Those actively dividing cells are the ones that end up giving rise to sperm cells. After the cells have divided, the cells go to other types of cells called Sertoli cells. Inside the Sertoli cells is where the sperms can now be able to mature and become well developed and mature sperms to facilitate the process of fertilization. When you look at the spaces between the seminiferous tubules, we have other types of cells called interstitial cells. The work of interstitial cells is to ensure that the male hormones called androgens are produced. The male hormones called androgens are produced to facilitate the process of reproduction to be well taken care of in a much better way as planned by the living God. Remember, not only the interstitial between the seminiferous tubules are the ones that can produce the male hormones called androgens. We also have what we call the adrenal gland. We have two adrenal glands just on top of the two kidneys in a human being. So on top of the two kidneys, we have the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands have two main parts. We have the adrenal cortex and we have the adrenal medulla. When you look at the adrenal cortex of the adrenal gland, which is on top of the kidney, is where we can also have a small amount of the male gametes being produced. On top of the kidney or on top of the two kidneys, we have what we call adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are also the ones that help a human being, in as far as male organisms are concerned, to produce the male hormones called androgens. What have I said? Not the interstitial cells are the only ones that produce the male hormones called androgens. I am saying that when you look at the kidneys, the one on the left and the one on the right, you will realize that on top of the two kidneys, we have what you call adrenal glands. The adrenal glands have two main parts. We have adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. When you look at adrenal cortex also has actively dividing cells that give rise to the male hormones called androgens. Some of these hormones are like testosterone. An example of a male hormone is testosterone. Another example is aldotestosterone. So we have testosterone and aldotestosterone. These hormones play a very critical role in ensuring that reproduction becomes an effective process, in ensuring that it gives rise to young ones of the same kind, in as far as those organisms are concerned. You should understand that the cells along the seminiferous tubules have actively divided to give rise to sperm cells. The sperm cells have been taken to Sertoli cells to be able to mature, so that the sperms can be able to become active, effective, and facilitate the process of fertilization. From that, we have what we call epididymis. From that, we have what we call epididymis. Epididymis is a very coiled tube which is approximately 6 meters long. Epididymis helps the male reproductive system. Sperm cells are stored temporarily. So epididymis, 6 meters long and highly coiled, provides a larger surface area in ensuring that the sperm cells which have been manufactured in seminiferous tubules inside the testes are stored temporarily. From epididymis, we have what you call vas deferens or sperm duct. Vas deferens or sperm duct connects epididymis to the urethra. Vas deferens or sperm duct connects epididymis to the urethra. It actually ensures that a clear provided in as far as allowing the sperms to pass as they find their way to the urethra. A student is supposed to understand the urethra, also referred to as ejaculatory ducts or urinogenital organ, is very important. The urethra or duct or urinogenital organ actually meets with the urinary opening to form what we call vas efferentia. What I'm saying is, from epididymis we have what we call sperm duct or vas deferens. That is a tube that provides a passage for the passing of the sperms where they have been stored temporarily as they find their way to the urethra. What I'm saying is, when the sperm duct finds its way and connects to the urethra being able to also be called an ejaculatory duct or a urinogenital organ, will be able to meet with a duct from the urinary bladder, such that the urethra and the urinary bladder will form what we call vasa efferentia. That leads now to the outside of the male reproductive system. You should understand that before we even reach the penis, there is a very important part called vesicle. It is actually a blind organ found along the reproductive system of the male. Seminal vesicle produces an alkaline medium, provides an alkaline medium by producing an alkaline fluid. That alkaline fluid or substance ensure that nutrients are added to the spermatozoa, which are actually finding their way to the outside of the male reproductive system. So the seminal vesicle along the male reproductive system will produce an alkaline medium. The seminal vesicle along the male reproductive system produce an alkaline fluid which contains nutrients, such that the spermatozoa, which are on their way to the outside of the male reproductive system, will be able to have the nutrients and be able to grow and become well developed, so that they are very mature before they find their way to the outside reproductive system through the penis. The second substance that you are supposed to also take care of here is what we call the prostate gland, and also produces an alkaline medium that neutralizes the vaginal fluids. Remember, as you come from the vulva and as you extend towards the cervix, the environment or that passage in the female reproductive system tends to be very acidic. So the prostate gland will produce an alkaline substance to ensure that the vaginal fluids are neutralized. The acidic vaginal fluids are well neutralized. This prostate gland, on producing this alkaline medium, will also ensure that the sperm cells are also activated as they find their way to the outside of the reproductive system. Next to the prostate gland is what you call the Cowper's gland. The Cowper's gland also produces an alkaline substance that actually neutralizes the acidic urethra. Where does the urethra get this acidity? Remember, when someone is urinating, the urine has actually been taken to be very acidic. And because of this, as the urine finds its way to the outside of the body or organism, it tends to actually make that urethra to be very acidic. So the alkaline substance produced by the Cowper's gland will neutralize that acidic urethra, because the acidity of an environment can interfere with the viability of the sperm cells. To increase the viability of the sperm cells, we have the Cowper's gland producing an alkaline substance that neutralizes the lining of the urethra, to ensure that as the sperms will actually be able to find their way outside the body of the male reproductive system, they won't end up dying because the acidity of the urethra has affected them. As you reach the urethra, you will realize that the urethra is an erectile intromittent organ that actually is in between the penis. The urethra is called urinogenital. It actually ensures that the urine is released to the surrounding, and at the same time the passage of sperm cells to the outside of the male reproductive system during coitus or during that sexual activity. You should understand that the penis has a foreskin, also called prepuce, called a foreskin or prepuce, which covers the end part of the penis, called glans penis. You should understand that the penis has three very important things that will always help it to ensure that reproduction is effective. Number one, it has muscles. Number two, the tissues are spongy. Number three, it has. Let's take this example. I am walking all along the road, then I find a very beautiful lady. I will see the woman with my eyes. The image of the woman is formed on my retina. The image formed on the retina, which is upside down, nerve impulses. The information is sent to the brain. When the information is sent to the brain interprets the information and says what you are seeing is actually able to make you to have what you call pleasure. And with that, the brain sends the information to the heart, such that the sympathetic nerve is activated to speed up the rate of the heart in terms of beating, such that when the heartbeat is increased, is diverted to the hind limbs and especially to the male reproductive organ called the penis, such that when the blood reaches, oh my god, the laptop